Hey everybody, Kenny here. Before we get started, I'm just including this little disclaimer that I will be using at the start of each of my Diablo 4 planning videos. Initially, I was going to create one long video that I was just going to add timestamps for, but when I did that with my Octopath Traveler 2 video, despite the fact that it is one of my more successful videos on my channel, I think from the analytics that I saw in that video that the length may have been a little intimidating, which caused it to not get as much traction as it probably would have if I had just released a bunch of shorter videos that each showcased a different character. So instead of doing one long video, I'm doing a bunch of shorter videos on all of my tips and my build planning that I will be putting into a playlist, and then each of these videos will just kind of refer back using this disclaimer here, just to set expectations of what's going to be coming here. These are all going to be essentially theory videos, while most of this has practical application already known due to all of the data mining on the available build calculators and practical experience from playing through the various beta events, as well as what we know from other YouTube groups. Everything here is still potentially going to change once the game actually comes out. We don't know for certain what's going to be what. We just know what we've seen and what's available to us to see. So take everything that you see in any of these videos with a grain of salt. So with that out of the way, let's get going. So this build is going to be my Sorcerer build. And this one is kind of inspired by... the Dragon Reborn from the Wheel of Time series. I won't go into detail on that, but just know it's a character that is known for using fire and lightning. So those will be the focuses here. But to start off, we are going to be going into Arclash, because when I play a magic caster, my goal is always to be able to play that magic caster in melee range. No, that's not how most people do it. That's how I do it. Put our first point in Arclash, then we grab the enhanced Arclash, which makes it that our initial swipe, if our initial swipe critically hits, then it swipes an additional time. So, nice little extra damage if we happen to get a crit. And in our core area here, we are going to be going into Chain Lightning, which unleashes a stream that deals damage based on the number of nearby enemies, and it trickles on and chains around until the effect dissipates and then eventually ends. We'll be grabbing the enhanced Chain Lightning, which gives us a chance to increase our critical hit chance per bounce. And we will be getting the destructive Chain Lightning, which when a Chain Lightning critically strikes, it has a 25% chance to form Crackling Lightning. Then in a kind of a twist on what's going on here, we're going to put a point into Incinerate. That will come into play, but not just yet. So down in this area here, we actually will not be taking any of these. These are the defensive skills for the Sorcerer, and they are essentially without peer as far as this class goes. If you don't have one of these, you're probably not going to be able to survive, and I will not be taking any of them. Initially, I was going to be taking Flame Shield, and with Flame Shield, I wanted to get this this upgrade over here, which makes it that our flame shield would heal us 50% of our missing life, which would be very nice, but we just can't. So in the defensive area, we will not be taking anything. So back to the core area. In the core area, we will be taking Devastation and going into Elemental Dominance, which gives our core skills increased damage when cast above 50 mana. Taking that all the way to 3 points to make it that bonus is increased to 9%. And then we'll start enhancing our Incinerate. With Enhanced Incinerate, while channeling, you burn enemies around you for 50% of the damage per second. And with Destructive Incinerate, enemies deal 20% less damage while burning. That unlocks our path down to the Conjuration tier here. And in the Conjuration tier, we're going to be taking both Lightning Spear and Ice Blades. The reason for this is that as we have just gained access to, since this is the character just reached level 15 by doing that, we now are able to use the enchantment system. Before the Sorcerer, they have 2 enchantments that they're able to add to their loadout, and every single one of their spells has an enchantment effect. So for the Ice Blades, the enchantment effect is that every 40 seconds of cooldown you spend, you spawn an Ice Blade. So if we're using both Lightning Spear and Ice Blades, and we have the enchantment effect of Ice Blades turned on, then that makes it that we'll occasionally, by using Ice Blades and Lightning Spear, which combined have a 36-second cooldown, have combined 36 seconds of cooldown. With any more cooldowns added, we will guaranteed be casting an additional Ice Blade. However, we won't be focusing on that right now. Like, we were grabbing these to start filling out our available skills, but what we're actually going to be doing once you get here is using our first available enchantment slot for Chain Lightning. So up until this point, Chain Lightning would have been our primary core skill. We'd been using our Arc Lash and then Chain Lightning. But once we reach the point that we're level 15, that means that we can use the Chain Lightning's enchantment effect, which is Chain Lightning forms automatically after spending 100 mana, which means that we're able to use Incinerate, which consumes 25 mana per second, and just occasionally Chain Lightning while we're incinerating. The idea is while you have mana, you're incinerating and rocking free Chain Lightning, which will then we'll use our Arc Lash to get our mana back and keep on in that fashion, while occasionally using our Lightning Spear and Ice Blades. They're cooldown, so why not? And that's the kind of general idea of like what I'm going for this build. And it's also the reason why I can't afford to take any of these, because as of right here, we're already at 5 of our 6 slots consumed, which means that we just can't afford to do one of these. I mean, sure, I could not use Lightning Spear, but you're gonna see why. Like, I have to have Lightning Spear in the build in order for this to work. So we'll be grabbing the enhancements to both Lightning Spear and Ice Blades. So again, enhanced Lightning Spear, which after critically striking, Lightning Spear gains increased second critical strike chance restoration. And we'll be getting the Summon Lightning Spear upgrade, which makes it that collecting crackling energy increases the damage of our next Lightning Spear cast by 20%, which is something that we have access to because of Chain Lightning here. And grabbing that got us down to the Mastery area, which, once again, we're not taking any of these, not even Ball Lightning, but we will be taking Static Discharge, which makes it that our shock skills have a chance to form Crackling Lightning. And we'll be taking Shocking Impact. I'm sorry. We'll be taking Invigorating Conduit, which makes it that absorbing Crackling Lightning causes us to gain mana. I'm sorry, Crackling Energy, not Crackling Mana. Absorbing Crackling Energy makes it that we gain mana. And we'll grab our Enhanced Blades upgrade here, which makes it that the cooldown is reduced each time it hits a vulnerable enemy, which isn't actually something that we're going for with this, but we need to get that in order to get the update we actually want, which makes it that 20% of Enhanced Ice Blades cooldown reduction is applied to your other skills. And now that we're in the ultimate section, this is where the build actually comes together, because now we have access to Unstable Currents. Unstable Currents is a skill with a very long cooldown, which plays right into what we're doing here. So pop, 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 and you have 2 additional Ice Blades on top of the 2 that we have from using Ice Blades directly. And the actual effect of the skill is that while the buff is active for 10 seconds, whenever we cast a shock skill, a random core, conjuration, or mastery shock skill is also cast. Now we are not using, once again, we're not using Ball Lightning, so this doesn't, this won't cast Ball Lightning, but, and this is why we took Lightning Spear, this will cause lightning, this will cast Chain Lightning and Lightning Spear. And then with his upgrades, we make it that our attack speed is increased by 25% while active. And the final upgrade makes it that any crackling energy that exists in the area, instead of absorbing it or just doing this regular crackling energy thing, which is just being a kind of a little mote that does little like shocks to nearby enemies, it will instead continually pulse, meaning that the little occasional shock will become a constant shock, or as many motes have been created while attacking. And so the idea here is that once we get down to this point, we will be regularly, when we have mana, we're using Incinerate, and using Incinerate to occasionally cast Chain Lightning. And then as soon as we're out of, while obviously using our cooldowns as often as possible, and whenever we're out of mana, we're Arc Lashing as much as possible. And as soon as this is off cooldown, we're hitting our big cooldown and just spamming Arc Lash, because Arc Lash can trigger all the stuff there. And it has a very high attack speed multiplier, and we have an additional attack speed multiplier because of the upgrade we got for that skill. So we will just be shredding, absolutely shredding anytime that thing is off cooldown. And then when that's not off cooldown, once again, we're doing our Incinerate spam, and and hitting all of our cooldowns whenever they're available. But this is going to be pretty nuts, I'm guessing. Once again, I don't know, because I didn't play Sorcerer up to the highest level in the highest level we could do in beta. Like I found, like when I played the the Sorcerer during beta, it was very boring compared to, because I played Barbarian first, and then going from Barbarian to Sorcerer was super boring, and I didn't like the playstyle. So, like, it wasn't until after that beta that I learned about the enchantment system. So after learning that, you know, that gave me an idea for an actual build that I would like to play, which, as I mentioned, is always a melee mage. I love melee mages, it's my thing. Then we will be investing into coursing currents, which makes it that hitting enemies with our shock skills increases our critical strike chance, and anytime we crit, we will lose that additional crit bonus, but it basically makes it that we're guaranteed to occasionally crit. And at this point, we'll grab our Summon Dice Blades, buy an upgrade there, and grab the Flickering Arc Lash upgrade, which gives us additional movement speed for each enemy hit with Arc Lash. Then we'll pump some points into our skills, like Incinerate, which will be enough points to unlock our key passives down here. And of course, we will be going for Overflowing Energy. Overflowing Energy makes it that our Crackling Energy hits one additional enemy, and each time Crackling Energy hits an enemy, your shock skills cooldowns are reduced. Now, if you've watched any of my other build videos up to this point, well, my build planning videos up to this point, be aware this is my breakpoint for all of my builds. This is where, you know, I mess around a little, and then I just start completely refunding all of my skills and start experimenting on every possible combination of skills in the game with that class until I determine that the build plan that I had laid out is actually the playstyle that I enjoy the most. And then once I'm certain that what I had planned is what I actually enjoy doing, that's when I will actually move on to my actual build, which is everything that I've shown so far, except, you know, obviously we're pushing Arc Lash all the way to 5, we're pushing Incinerate all the way to 5, pushing Chain Lightning all the way to 5, finishing off Devastation, capping out Lightning Spear, capping out Ice Blades, putting 1 point into Align the Elements, which is a pretty good skill because you gain damage reduction against elites for each second you haven't taken damage. And yeah, like, you know, like you could like drop some points off of something else in order to make it that you gain 3% per second instead. But I'd rather use those points for things like Mana Shield and Protection. With Mana Shield, every time you spend 100 mana, you gain 15% damage reduction for 5 seconds. You know, at full points invested. And Protection, using cooldowns, grants you 30% of your maximum life as barrier. And, you know, we are using cooldowns. So it's a super useful one for our sustain, since, you know, we don't have any actual defensive skills. You know, we have our capped out static charge for the increased increased chance to form Cracking Energy when we critically strike. You know, we had capped this out earlier. And I dropped these skills, you know, the points that I put into these so that I could cap out these skills here. And so with that, that's all of our active skills set up. Now to look at our, once again, say it with me, High in the Sky Paragon board build. So, usual, we're going through to grab all of the magic and bear nodes that we have in the starting board, because that gets us extra resistances, more life, extra non-physical damage, and even more life on top of that. More resistances, more non-physical damage. And if we can get it, we want to get the charged glyph, which makes it that all of our intelligence nodes in range increase the damage of cracking energy, and picking up cracking energy grants us increased damage. From there, we grab the ceaseless conduit board, and in the ceaseless conduit board, once again, we want to grab our magic and rare nodes for the increased lightning damage, increased damage with cracking energy, increased damage reduction. So damage reduction for damage taken over time, more resistances, healing over time, increased lightning resistance, more increased damage with cracking energy, and if we can get it, the territorial glyph, which makes it that for each 5 dexterity in the range, we get increased damage to close targets, meaning we have a 2 bucket in our build now. And if we satisfy the stat requirements for that, then we also gain additional 10% damage reduction against closed enemies. So we deal more damage to close enemies and they deal less damage to us. All good stuff. The legendary node here makes it that cracking energy has a chance not to consume a charge when triggered, and cracking energy's damage is increased based on the amount of intelligence we have. Then we head out this way to get the Enchantment Master board. And Enchantment Master board, again, we're going for our magic and rare nodes, so more non-physical damage, more life, more reduced damage over time taken, more resistances, more healing over time. Once again, we don't have any defenses in this build, so we don't have any direct defensive skills, so we have to get all of our defenses through our passives. So it's very large focus on getting our healing over time and our increased resistances and all that. We're damage to elites, lots of non-physical damage, more resistances, and if we can get it, the Elementalist glyph, which makes it that all of the Paragon nodes within range that offer non-physical damage and damage reduction modifiers are increased by 160%. So unfortunately that only affects our non-physical damage stuff here. Like I mean, I'm not saying there isn't one that has both in there. I couldn't find one that had both non-physical damage and damage reduction. I mean, there must be one, and I just didn't spot it. But like in here, we have resistances here, which is great. And it would be nice if this counted, but it doesn't. The tags are resistance and non-physical, and this is and this is for damage reduction. And damage reduction does exist, because that's what the damage over time ones that I showed are. Okay, so damage taken over time there, you can see tags at the bottom. Damage reduction is one of them. So it needs to have that tag, but I haven't found any of these where like you have both a... So it's just actually occurring to me that since these defensive ones also are saying they're non-physical, then it may still get the bonus. It may still provide the bonus even though it's not damage reduction, but the tag in here does seem to still be non-physical, and this improves both non-physical and damage reduction. So I guess like if there's one here where there's damage reduction, actually, that doesn't seem to be the case. Because the only ones that have damage, the only glyph areas out of all of the sorcerer boards that have damage reduction are the Burning Instincts and Icefall boards. But as you can see here, this has damage reduction, but this doesn't. And it doesn't have non-physical. And this has damage reduction, but this doesn't. And it doesn't have non-physical. Yeah, so even though it wasn't my intention, this is actually the only board that would be, that you could put this this glyph into and get the full benefit, which is strange. But once again, I didn't pick it for that purpose. I picked it because it had the nice non-physical damage bonus there. So that was the reason I picked it. I was sad that it didn't have that, the damage reduction thing here. But the fact that it looks like it still does get the bonus, even without it, makes it actually perfect for this. This is like this. If you were going to use the Enchantment Master board, then Elementalist is, if you happen to get Elementalist, that is the perfect glyph for this board. Absolutely perfect. But on top of the bonuses that it provides to basically everything here, which is incredible. It also, if you satisfy the intelligence requirement, then whenever you deal fire, cold, or lightning damage to an enemy, it increases damage you deal to them by a 5% multiplier for 10 seconds, and it stacks per element, and we are always doing all 3 damage types. And because we're using Incinerate to occasionally cast Chain Lightning and using Ice Blades, and gaining additional Ice Blades anytime our cooldowns, anytime we use our cooldowns. This is something that we are always going to be getting. And the legendary here is Enchantment Master, which just increases our enchantments by 20%. Which I honestly, I don't know if that's actually any good. I mean, for the enchantments that I'm going to be using. Because I'm going to be using the Chain Lightning enchantment. And, I don't know. Because Chain Lightning forms automatically after spending 100 mana. I don't know, does that affect the Chain Lightning that's being formed? Does that affect the amount of mana that needs to be consumed in order for the effect to occur? I don't know. The Ice Blades one, for every 40 seconds in cooldowns you spend, does it increase the number of Ice Blades that are spawned? Does it reduce the amount of cooldown we need to use? Does it increase the damage of the Ice Blades? I have no idea. I'm as in the dark as you guys when it comes to what actually, what this would actually do as far as the enchantments go. Because, this is end of endgame type stuff. So, obviously, I'm not there yet. This is a planning video. It's what I hope I'm going to be able to do. None of this is anything that I expect to actually be able to do. Yeah, so that is my planned sorcerer build. As I've mentioned in my build mechanics guide, none of my builds go past this part right here. I only do starting board and then 2 more. This will change if it turns out that I'm able to satisfy the stat requirements here using gear, and if we're like I find like we learn for certain that, you know, like getting the glyphs you want just isn't something that like if you're someone who only likes to play using the items that you find yourself, then like it's very likely that, you know, glyphs just aren't going to be possible for the average player, because they're most likely going to, like, if there's something that needs to be found, then it's most likely going to be that you're going to need to trade for the glyphs you want. And if that's the case, then, you know, like for a lot of people, which I would say that most people who play action RPGs, you know, like either you are, like I said, there's probably a pretty even split. Like, you know, either you are someone who firmly believes in trading to quickly get to, you know, the levels of power you want to be able to take on the hardest challenges, or you're someone who does not want to participate in trading at all, because you know, part of your joy is, you know, the discovery. And so, like, you know, both are viable options. You know, no one's wrong for having a preference either way, but this is going to be a deterrent for a lot of people if it turns out to be that the only way to get glyphs is to find them. Yeah, so hoping to find that out soon. I will be playing day one and, you know, posting that footage. But yeah, that's going to be it for this build planning video. Next up will be my barbarian video. Yes. That is the case. This is Sorcerer, so yes. Next is barbarian. And then the last one will be rogue. If you like listening to this old man talk about RPGs and found any of these tips useful, I appreciate doing all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, Ve Victus, Flyers in Numeris, and bye.